afternoon, everyone. I am Carrie Kirk. I'm one of the psychology externs at the Midshipman Development Center, and you all know Chaplain Purvis. We're going to talk to you today about stress management and how to kind of navigate stress before it ends up navigating you. So we'll talk about some ways to navigate that. Okay, a little bit about what we're going to do. We'll talk about what stress is. Chaplain Purvis has a great activity in the middle of the presentation called a life map. We'll work through that. We'll talk about some navigation techniques, and then we'll leave plenty of time at the end for questions. Okay, so courageous and committed stress. In other words, what does stress look like here at the United States Naval Academy? So what does stress look like for you all? Go ahead and share that with the rest of the group. Deadlines, okay. Anybody else? PRT, big one.
Grouchy chain of command.
Grouchy chain of command. Military obligations. What's that one? Say that one loud. Being shotgun. Okay. Anything else? Capstones. That's a big one. Any other big ones that you guys share commonly besides like the PRT and some of the chemistry exams?
2 for 7s for the second class.
2 for 7s. That's a big one. Okay. So you all have unique stressors to yourselves as individuals, and there's also stressors here that you face at the Naval Academy that other students and other institutions wouldn't necessarily face. So thank you guys for sharing those with us. So let's play a little game of true or false. Some people don't have any stress. Is that true or is that false? So show of hands for people who think that's true. False? Okay, good job. Can't fool you guys. So stress presents differently in everyone. So it may look like some people aren't experiencing stress at all, but the presentation may just be different. So they may have a lot going on internally and they may be stressed out, but they don't show it the same as other people may. So good job. Next one. Some people are born to handle stress better than others. True or false? True. Raise it. Hands for true. Okay. False. Okay. So split up the middle with that one, which is good. It's kind of a tricky question. So the answer is yes and no. So you're all right. Some people are born with personality characteristics that are passed down through our genes. And so that means that in some situations, some people may handle stress a little bit differently than others. However, how we respond to stress in stressful situations is directly determined by our environment. So we can literally be trained to handle stressful situations in different ways or ways that work best for us. Okay, true or false? And you can be honest. I would be better off if I got rid of all the stress in my life. Show of hands for true. Okay. Show of hands for false. Okay, most of you. So stick a pin in that one. We're going to come back to that one in a second. Okay, so what is stress? So the simplest definition is it's literally any physical demand or mental demand that's placed on your body. So it can be acute, so that's very short duration of stress. So think about how your heart races if you're running late for class or you're running late for formation, things like that. It could be chronic, which is a longer duration and it has more physical effects. So think about exam time or other stressful preparation periods for you. There's physical consequences to chronic stress. So that can be fatigue or sickness, and it's a much longer duration. It's almost like stress comes and stays a while. That's what chronic stress is. So back to that true or false question about getting rid of all the stress in your life. Okay, so there's 2 types of stress overall. There's good stress or eustress. And that's excitement or elation or thrill. We're connected to our environment. We're happy. We're bouncing around from thing to thing. We're confident in ourselves. It's also, eustress can be an acute stress. So it could be kind of one of those temporary things that pops up and then you return right back to a basal level of operating and daily functioning. And there's also bad stress or distress. So this also lets us know we're connected to our environment and it keeps us tuned into what's going on. But it's the stress that causes mental or emotional strain. And in some ways, that stress lets us know that we're out of touch with what we're comfortable with and our reality is giving us a different perception of what's happening around us. It can also mean that we're not quite operating in our limits that we're comfortable with, and the stress could be a sign of that we're not operating within those limits. And those two types of stress work together to help us balance out our lives pretty much and operate and navigate situations that come up for us. So the key to balancing that stress with the good stress and the bad stress is finding an optimal stress level. So that's a just right level between good stress and bad stress. It's like that sweet spot. And it's different for everyone, like we talked about. And the key to learning where that stress level is self-awareness. That's one of the biggest things or biggest contributors to learning how to navigate between good stress and bad stress. And Chaplain Purvis is going to expand on that a little bit. Self-regulation, so monitoring yourself and kind of checking in with yourself every once in a while and figuring out what's going on around you, as well as staying connected and conscious with your surroundings and engage with your surroundings. So some of you may have seen this before, but it's called the Yerkes-Dodson diagram, and it's part of the Yerkes-Dodson law. Show of hands real quick, how many have seen this? Okay. So this is literally a diagram that shows kind of eustress and distress, so good stress and bad stress, and where, right in the center, what that looks like when stress is optimal for us, okay? So down here, this little guy is in low stress, kind of sleeping or not really aroused at all. As the graph progresses this way, performance increases, as does stress. And so at the top, that's the peak stress and peak performance. When those two merge in that sweet spot, that's our optimum level of stress. It's our optimal performance zone. But if stress or arousal does not decrease, then performance declines. And that's what we find ourselves in that sometimes, in that situation or in that cycle sometimes. And so ultimately, we want to stay where that little guy is at the top or little girl is at the top as much as we possibly can. Okay. And so when we're trying to figure out how to stay in that zone, and we're talking about self-awareness and some other things that we can do to kind of be aware of our surroundings, what is it that we do? Chaplain Purvis is going to talk about that a little bit more.
I often say eliminating stress is like trying to find a unicorn. It just doesn't happen, does it? So I've got a saying on my board. If you all just take one piece and pass it around for me. Is everybody have something to write with? I'm sure that you do.
We have some pens that we can pass around as well.
I have the saying. It says, your past will shape you, but do not let it define you.
Let me know if you guys show hands if you need.
If you need a pen, does anybody need a pen? All right, so I have this saying, your past will shape you, but do not let it define you. Someone tell me what does that mean to you? Your past will shape you, but do not let it define you. Yes, ma'am.
So if someone in the past is alcoholic, you know how to experience that, and maybe what you do or do not do, but because past has alcohol, you're not that.
Yes, very good. Anybody else? Your past will shape you, but do not let it define you. Kang, what do you think?
I mean, like what happens in the past, like develops you, not necessarily who you are, but who you are, because that's what you have to recognize, very self-changing of who you are,
Yes, very good. So, those things that have happened to you in the past, those negative things, or those positive things, shape who we are, but never let it define who you are. And I'll give you an example. Someone comes from a rough background, inner city kind of life. I'll just use an example. I started a midshipman a couple weeks ago. And he said, chaps, when I go home for holiday season, whether it's Christmas or Easter, spring break, or whatever it might be, he says, when I go back there, I've still got friends who make fun of me for getting out of the hood. Those are his terms. And it's interesting because his friends, he says to me, they have allowed this environment to define who they are. And he allowed it to shape him. Of course, it shapes who he is today, but he didn't allow it to define who he is. Now, how does this relate to stress? Well, let me get the life map there that you have in your hand. Where is? There it is. All right, so fold your paper like this for me. Now, usually I'll do this, I don't know. Laura, you've done this with me before. It's like a 2 to 4 hour seminar retreat that I do this with. I'm going to do this in 10 minutes, so I'm going to give you the wave tops really quick. So this is going to be a life map. Okay, go ahead and open it like this. On the, I guess it'd be the left-hand side, put life map at the top there. Put a little positive sign, a little negative sign, and then a little circle. So life map, put a little positive sign, negative sign, and then a little circle. What I want you to do is think from your childhood up to where you are today, all of the positive things that have impacted and shaped your life. And I would just pick, because of time's sake, 3 or 4 positive things that have impacted and shaped your life up to this point. So, for example, getting into Naval Academy is a huge positive, right? Maybe it was a mentor in your life who shaped you to where you are today. Maybe it's a parent. So let's think of some of those positive things that have shaped who you are today. Maybe it's your faith background. Maybe it's your athletic ability. Think of the 3 or 4 positive things that have impacted your life, that have shaped you. All right, now what I want you to do is think of 4 or 5 negative things that have happened to you. This work can be pretty difficult, right? So you can think of things, a divorce in the family, sexual assault, maybe, breakup of a relationship. Maybe you didn't get the service selection that you necessarily wanted. And we're not going to look at these, so these belong to you guys, so write what you need to. Now what I want you to do is take and make a little circle there, and then start listing 4 or 5 things that stress you out right now. And I'm thinking like, my goodness, your roommates, capstone, you're getting ready to graduate. Maybe it's your boyfriend, girlfriend, family. And while you're finishing up there, I just want to tell you a couple reasons why I do this. Number 1, it redefines your perspective on life. It shows you where you've been, and it can give you kind of an idea of where you're going. Number 2, it refocuses your behavior. You can retrace some of the things that have happened in your past, and you can say, okay, these are the things that I'm dealing with and I'm still stressed about. I'll give you an example. I had a midshipman last semester that did not do well when it came to studying. And she studied and worked hard and did things that she needed to do. Well, we did the life map. What we began to realize is it wasn't the studying that was the stressor. It was her parents. Her parents were high-ranking officers, and when she would get a B+, A- in high school, her dad would always tell her, this is not good enough. And it stressed her out every single time she had to take an exam. All she could think about in her mind was, if I don't get an A, my parents are going to be disappointed. Imagine that kind of stress every single time you take an exam, every time you take a quiz. So the second thing there, it helps you to retrace, refocus your behavior. And then the third thing it'll do, it helps you to redirect your thinking. And when you redirect your thinking, you redirect your life. Neuroscientists tell us that we have over 60,000 thoughts a day. 60,000. If you have 40,000 thoughts that go kind of in that negative area, that worry, that stress, that's going to be a stressor of in itself, right? 40,000 negative thoughts, I think, was the average that people would have out of those 60,000. Neuroscientists tell us that. So if you can redirect that thinking, which Doc's going to talk about here in just a little bit, some things you can do to help with that, you will begin to redirect your life. Now, back to the map. So you've got your stressor down, you've got the positive, you've got the negatives. Turn it over on the other side here, and the number 1 stressor, just right there at the top. Number 1 stressor equals, what is your number 1 stressor in life? Your number 1 stressor, not right now, not like, hey, I've got an exam coming up tomorrow, it's my number 1 stressor, but what is your number 1 stressor in life? And what I want to do with this is going to help you. This is some practical stuff that you can actually take back with you later on and think about this a little bit more. But what is the number 1 thing that stresses you out right now? And then when you're done there, make a big circle better than mine, but like an oval circle right there, and then split it in half. So big circle, and then split it in half. And at the top, just simply write, I can control. I can control 50%. I can control 50%. It's right at the top. Yep, so it looks like that. On the bottom right, I can't control, or I cannot control 50%. About 3 minutes. So with the number one stressor in your life right now, at the top, write 3 things that you can control about that situation. 3 things that you can control about that situation. So I just had an example. This is not mine, but if I had family, my attitude towards my family I could control. How often I interact with my family, I can control that. My response to them, I can control that. Giving them grace is something I can control. Being supportive. So what are 3 or 4 things that you can control in that number one stressor in your life? Because you have more control than you believe when it comes to stress in your life. Now, at the bottom there, obviously, name 2 or 3 things that you cannot control. For my example with family, I cannot control my parents' past. I cannot control their financial situation. And I cannot control their response to me. There's 2 or 3 things that you cannot control. Stephen Covey says, time management is a misnomer, but this is the part that I really like. The real challenge in life is to manage ourselves. Sometimes we spend so much time trying to manage everything outside of our control that it just wears on us after a while. So what are the things that you can control, those top 3, those 3 bottom things that you cannot control? And then finally on the back side, so turn that bad boy over. So fold it back up like the book on the back side. 3 action steps that you're going to take to mitigate stress in your life. And Doc's going to talk a little bit more about this in a minute. Does anybody know what a DJ does? A DJ, you know, like DJ? What's that?
Like disc jockey?
Disc jockey. What's a disc jockey do?
He plays music for like entertainment.
Yeah, he or she plays music. Is he or she the one that's in control of the music, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I want you to be a DJ of your life. You have control over your life. If I'm listening to a song on the radio that I don't like, I can simply change the channel. For you guys, you have more control than you realize. And I want you to be the DJ of your life. And sometimes as I talk to midshipmen over and over and over, they allow other people to drive and be the DJ of their life. And the amount of stress that causes, I mean, I can't do anything for them because they're allowing external forces, which they cannot control, but they allow those people to control them. Does that make sense? You become the DJ for your life. So 3 action steps to mitigate stress. And the last thing we'll talk about is just clarifying your purpose and passion in life. I was talking to, does anybody know David Von Savage by chance? He's the boxer. He's a SEAL Select. He and I have been meeting the last 2 years once a week in my office. And I love that guy because he knows what his purpose and passion from the time he got here to the time he went through the Bud screener to getting ready to go to Buzz this summer. And he never let anything get in the way of his purpose and passion. Now, this is a topic for a different day, but think in your mind, and maybe you could jot it down there below your 3 action steps. What is your purpose in life? Do you know what your purpose is in life? And you may not know it, and that's okay. Right now, where you're at in life, what is your purpose in life? Lord, we're getting all like philosophical up here, talking about purpose in life and meaning of life. And you see, this all ties in together when you talk about stress in your life. As Doc was saying, there's good stress, there's bad stress, but if I know my purpose and my passion in life, then all these other things I allow to stress me out, I kind of put those to the wayside, because if they have nothing to do with what my purpose is in life, you know what? I don't worry about it. What somebody in First Reg thinks about Chapman Paris, I don't really care, because my job is to take care of 6th Battalion. I love all midshipmen. But if somebody has a problem with me, that's okay. You're in First Reg anyway. That's your own fault. I can't help that. Just kidding. But I want to take care of the people where I'm at. So I don't even worry about those folks. So will you find your purpose and passion? My purpose is to love on people, take care of people any way that I can. And my passion is for people. So anything outside of those two things, I don't really worry too much about. Because if I'm doing those things the way that I'm supposed to be doing, even though I'm stressing my life, I'm going to be doing just fine. Doc, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right.
And then we have this, I'll close out here. So we have this video I want to show you. I think this is a rabbi, actually, that is sharing this story. It's about a 1.5-minute video. And it's what would a lobster do? And he talks about having stress in life. And I think it's really good.
Stress and how we deal with stress. Okay? And I think it's an important thing because many people have told me in my lessons, so I want to give you remember. Okay? I was sitting in the dentist's office and looked at an article that said, how do lobsters grow? I don't know how lobsters grow. But I was interested in it. And it turns out that a lobster is a soft, mushy animal that lives inside of a rigid shell. That rigid shell does not expand. Well, how the lobster grow? Well, as the lobster grows, that shell becomes very confining. And any kind of big lobster feels itself under pressure and uncomfortable. It goes under a rock formation to protect itself from predatory fish, casts off the shell, and produces a new one. Well, eventually, that shell becomes very uncomfortable as it grows back under the rocks. And the lobster repeats this numerous times. The stimulus for the lobster to be able to grow is that it feels uncomfortable. Right? Now, if lobsters had doctors, they would never grow. Because as soon as the lobster feels uncomfortable, goes to the doctor, gets a Valium, gets a Percocet, feels fine. And then we can't talk to him. So I think that we have to realize that times of stress are also times that are signals for growth. And if we use adversity properly, we can grow through adversity.
So one disclaimer I do want to make. When Doc Moore, she can write prescriptions. If that's the case, we're not hammering on that. But he's making the point that simply handing somebody a pill is not going to take care of the root cause, oftentimes, of the stresses that we're going through, although it can help balance us out at certain different times in our lives. If you guys have any questions about these life maps, or you want me to go in more in depth with you or look at yours, I've done this with probably 150 midshipmen, and I've just really enjoyed it. So hopefully you guys did as well. If you have any questions, let me know. And Carrie, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. So, hopefully you guys got a lot out of this activity. When you're thinking about what's on that life map that you have and how to navigate those stressors that you guys are currently facing and that you guys are experiencing, or those things that may be presenting chronic stress for you, how do we navigate those things? So on the left-hand side, we have some solutions that are more physically oriented. And on the right-hand side, we have some things that are more oriented towards social and emotional well-being. So starting with the left side, we have exercise. And some of these things, exercise, diet, sleep, relaxation, and awareness. Some of these things you guys may have heard of as active coping. Your squad leaders may have talked a little bit about that with you guys. But exercise, you guys have to do that on a regular basis here. That's one of the things that is completely different from you and other college students across the country, outside of the other people who are at service academies as well. But how are you using your exercise in your daily life? Are you using it as a release? Are you using it as a function for you? Or are you using it as something that's mandatory so that you can pass the PRT, which is also it's stress-inducing to do it that way. Use your workouts in a way that helps you relieve or release stress throughout your day. Diet, a well-balanced diet is good. Sleep, you guys get a lot of talk at you about sleep, so I'm not going to go too far into that. But sleeping at night is also helpful to just kind of keeping you relaxed, keeping you alert, keeping you engaged. Relaxation. So relaxation is done in a number of different ways. essentially the best thing for you guys to do in terms of relaxation techniques is whatever you find gives you the most peace. So that could be a number of things for you. That could be listening to music, that could be going for a run, anything that brings you peace on a consistent basis, and you know that this is your go-to thing that helps me relax or helps me to kind of take back the control in my life that maybe stress was taking away from me. There are some other things you can do. So deep breathing exercises. So when you're finding yourself in a stressful moment, just taking a few deep breaths in and out, and kind of pausing to take those breaths and notice what's happening around you when you're taking those breaths. Progressive muscle relaxation. So has anybody ever tried doing that? Yeah? Okay. So we're going to do a quick exercise right now. So everybody kind of sit back in your chair. You can do it with one fist or two, but what I want you to do is the rest of you is relaxed, but I want you to take your fists and ball them up as hard as you possibly can, and don't let them go until I tell you to let them go. So squeeze as hard as you possibly can. Okay, now relax, let go. What did you feel? If anybody wants to share. What was the difference before you did that and then right after you let the fist go?
I feel like a release.
Okay. Yeah. And in some ways it should. So if you think about this fist, this balled up fist, as the tension and the stress that you're going through, and that the harder and harder you squeeze your fist, the more and more tense it gets. As you relax your fist, there's a sense of tension release there. You're no longer tense, that there's no longer a fist. So as the fist is relaxed, there's a release of tension as well. That doesn't work for everybody, but if that's something that you think may work for you, progressive muscle relaxation is a good technique to try. Mindfulness and whatever that means to you guys. I know you guys get a lot of talk at that as well, so again, that's not something I'll go too far in depth into, but just being more aware of your surroundings. Yoga is a good one. I'm not sure how often you guys have yoga opportunities here. There is a yoga club. Yes, thank you for sharing that. So there's a yoga club if yoga is something you're interested in. But there are several things you can do, but the best thing for you until you figure that out is trying to find what is it that brings you peace, and what is it that you can literally feel a sense of relaxation when you're faced with a stressful situation. And so on the right-hand side, we have a few different types of things. They're more task-oriented. So goal setting. So setting goals for your future can help to streamline your thought process and kind of get rid of some of that unnecessary stress. And so like Chaplain Purvis was saying, when you know your purpose and your passion, a lot of that unnecessary thoughts that come your way, they're not going to help you, and they add to your stress. So same thing with goal setting. If you're focused on a particular goal or a couple of different goals that you have, you're zoned in on that goal. You're motivated to achieve that goal. So anything that comes that's going to get you off track from achieving that goal, you're naturally going to kind of set it to the side, and that's a stress reduction technique. Time management, that's a big one. I know you guys have a lot of things to do here. You're busy students. Managing your time in the best way that you can is an excellent stress management technique, just because it gives you kind of some comfort and a sense of that you're in control with your academics, with your extra stuff that you're doing here, extracurriculars at the academy. Some of the best techniques that I've heard from midshipmen are either making them a verbatim schedule that they follow to a T. They can do it by hand, you can do it in a planner, you can do it on your phone, but there's some pretty good ways to keep yourself on task with time. Changing negative thought patterns. So this one can be difficult for some people, because essentially what that means is you're having to recognize that something you're thinking or a thought that you have is not necessarily the best thought, and sometimes that's hard for us to do. But changing thought patterns can be as simple as, oh, I do not want to go to class today. I hate this class. I don't want to be in here. So you know what? I'm happy I'm alive. I'm going to go to this class. So just a quick shift in perspective can help reduce your stress. Because thinking about that class that you're dreading, thinking about that final that you're dreading, thinking about whatever's coming up in the summer for you, that maybe one of your tours or whatever's happening that you don't want to do, that constant negative state or I don't want to do it, or I don't want to be here, I don't want that, can add to your stress level. So just maybe even a temporary shift in a more positive direction can be helpful. Social support. So go to those people who love and care for you unconditionally. So those could be family members, those could be friends, but they're people that support you and they're gonna support you no matter what. So if you are not successful in achieving something that was stressful for you, they're gonna be there for you no matter what. If you're in a stressful situation and you just want to vent, you just want someone to talk to, they're going to be there for you no matter what. That's a place for you to release and talk to them and kind of let some of that stress off of your own chest. Problem solving. So whenever we set goals, have a plan, execute the plan, and have success, that builds our confidence. And so learning how to problem solve and strategize and kind of troubleshoot the situations that you have can also be helpful. And change of scenery. So I know that is different for you all than it is for other college students, but in some ways, change of scenery can again be a very small shift in what you're doing and what's happening around you that can make a difference in your day with regard to your stress level. So change of scenery could be taking a different route to get to class instead of taking the same path every day at the same time every day. You take a different route, you may notice some flowers on the ground. You may see somebody that you haven't seen in a while and have a warm embrace with them. You may notice something else that you haven't seen, or notice a cloud in the sky that draws your attention. You may have a different experience as opposed to doing the same thing every time, every day in that routine, because you guys have very routine-based schedules here. If you get a chance to get off campus or leave this actual scenery of the academy, that's great for you too. Just changing your scenery can do so much and uplifting you and kind of getting your, realigning your thought process with the good things and the things that you want to do or where you want to be and different things like that. So changing your scenery is important too. So some other things you can do, practicing zones 5 through 8. So if we think about that Dodson stress model, so if we think about the beginning zone where the guy was sleeping, that zone probably 0 through 4. So that's you're in a state of not really activated, not really having a whole lot of stress, not really having motivation to do a whole lot. So that's under-stressed or under-aroused. Zones 5 through 8 are that peak zone where you're, not only are you operating in your peak performance zone, but you're using your anxiety, you're using your stress, you're using your nervousness to help you. So if you guys were athletes or if you played a sport, this is called being in the zone in some instances. It's where you're fully focused and dialed into your task and what you're doing so that your performance is the best it can possibly be. So practice staying in that zone as much as possible. Exploring purpose and passion. Chaplain Purvis hit the nail on the head with that piece. Knowing what you want to do and knowing your end goal helps to eliminate all those unnecessary thoughts that can come and help stress you out even more. Write things down. So if you're writing things down just like you are doing with the life map, it helps you to notice patterns and things that may not necessarily be working for you. Do good, feel good. So there's research that suggests that altruism or helping someone or helping others can help you feel a lot better when you're not feeling like yourself. So being in a prolonged state of stress or even multiple acute levels of stress can make us not feel like ourselves. We're not as diligent as we want to be. We're not as motivated as we want to be. So when you're feeling that way or if you get really stressed, try to do something nice for someone and it may help you feel a little better. And lastly, acceptance that stress is going to be a part of your lives. You guys are very high achieving individuals. I don't have to tell you that. You guys are going to go on and do great things in your lives. Stress is going to be there. High achieving individuals have stress. So knowing that that's going to be there is part of the acceptance process. But then as you accept where you're at with regard to stress, you make an active decision to either act and change that stressful situation or don't act. If you're over-aroused or you're hyper-aroused and you're just too stressed out, you can make the decision to back away from whatever it is that's stressing you out and kind of rest a little bit and let your body come back to normal. And lastly, if you need help navigating stress, there's always the Midshipman Development Center that's here for you during the school year. Chaplains, of course. Academic stressors, you can go to the Academic Center for study support. And as always, your support system. So again, I can't stress that enough. When you're stressed or you're not feeling like yourself, lean on your support system to help get you back on track. All right, any questions for Chaplain Purvis or I? So what are some things that you guys would like to share from your map? You don't have to share anything personable. That with regard to stress. Maybe we can walk through a particular example. Yep.
I don't want to play my party. That's the only one I want.
You don't want to plan your graduation party.
But I mean, it has to be done.
Okay. So what are you feeling when you think about planning your party? What happens?
The storm of who I invite, I don't know, a lot of people.
Okay. So she experiences is it like a lot of thoughts at once? Okay. She experiences a lot of thoughts at once, and it makes it difficult for her to think about planning the party, and then she doesn't want to plan the party even more. Am I right? Okay. Okay. And so in that case, it kind of just sounds like it's an overwhelming thought for you. That's stressful. That's essentially what's happening. And so in that case, what are some things that you, based on what you saw today or learned today, what are some things you may be able to do to navigate that for yourself? She's mentioned breaking it down and not thinking about it all at once. That sounds perfect to me.
Does anybody else have another example they want to share? Like if I'm thinking, if you're going to lead people and I came to you, I said, hey, I am just stressed to the max. What would you tell someone? Someone that you are leading. Some of you here in about 3 months, you're going to have people underneath you and you're going to be leading them. What would you tell them? Laura, you're going to be leading people soon.
Yes. I mean, I think it depends on the situation. So I've found that having people being able to encourage people to talk about how they're feeling, even if they're not really talking in person, relating it to your experience, because a lot of people in a high achieving environment don't want to admit that they are struggling because everyone they see who's successful on TV does not have a face for the screen. Because it's easy to pretend in front of the screen for 10, 15 minutes. It's not easy to not be stressed your whole life. And so being willing to be someone that maybe, hopefully that you can respect and someone looks up to in one way or another, you can say, see, I have struggles in the same way, and be willing to kind of reveal the curtain a little bit so that they feel comfortable to share. And then in that same moment, you don't have to think about them. You can say, here's what worked for me, which might give them, it's not how to apply to their situation, it's a little different.
Probably in the top 3 things that I've dealt with since I've been here is the comparison issue among midshipmen. Comparing to family who's in the military, comparing to their roommates, comparing yourselves to a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and just like you're saying, looking at other people going, man, I wish I could do that, instead of saying, what is my purpose and passion, and what do I need to be doing? So it's good. Anybody else that's getting ready to lead folks? I have one more, and then we'll shut it down. Go ahead.
What I would say if someone comes to me.
Yeah, one of your
Um,
comes to you and says, hey, I'm just.
what I ask them to explain why they can't explain why. And then, I don't know, just give them like the different ways that I cope with it as suggestions.
Mhm.
And what is it, they need more help.
I think you hit a good point too. Helping folks understand even why they're going through what they're going through and why they're feeling that stress. Kind of like with the life map thing that we just did here. Helping people understand what it is that they're, why are you feeling so stressed out? Because they might not even know the reason why. And so you're able to help them because you're going to be one of the first people as a DIVO or second lieutenant that they come to, because you're going to be junior, close to their age, they're going to feel comfortable with you, and they're going to come to you and ask you those questions. So not only these classes for you guys, but it's also stuff that you take back as a leader and apply to the folks that you lead. Boss?
Thank you so much for their time with Carrie Kirk and Chaplain Purvis, and feel free to ask them questions afterwards.
Thank you
Have a
guys.
good day.